Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 3:59 p.m. And we will start with public comment. Do you want that for the guests?
I know we'll do that in new business.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there anybody else?
Yeah, I did that. It's just blank.
All right, approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Motion to accept the minutes as written. Thank you. We've passed that. And do we have Patty on or?
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So would you like to give your report?
Yes.
Good.
All right. Today for the March meeting, we have warrants that total $87,726.63. The total for payroll is $21,937.95. And that includes Chief Carlton's salary of $6,662.92 and Chief Shield's pay of $3,567.43. And there was one event for each of the commissioners and the board secretary. The total payout for the warrants, or pardon me, for the volunteers, including the warrants, is $18,519. And I am just requesting the board's approval for the warrants and payroll for March as presented. And let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions on the breakdown of what's here?
I'll go over the credit.
Most of them you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll let that go. I would entertain a motion that we accept the warrants and payroll. Warrants of $87,726.63 and payroll of $7.95. It is passed. Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else, Patty?
Just an update on the remaining budget for 2024. But I need a couple minutes because that amount that I put in there, we just received from the assessor's office our final levy amount for the year, which I had in the accounting system. It was a little bit overstated, but I didn't have the outstanding tax collections for previous years. So I'd like to add that in there and then give you just a revised budget comparison. That way I know it'll be accurate to date, if you don't mind.
No, well, how about if we return to your report and we can go ahead and
That would be great. Yeah, maybe after Chief's report. Thank you.
very good.
No correspondence. I'll go over the other items.
Okay,
So Toyota Bellingham, $52,127.55. That is for the new Welcome Home van. So that was one of the things that we talked about during the levy campaign, is purchasing a van to help people get home from the hospital. And it'll probably be expanded into potentially helping people get down to doctor's appointments and those types of things too. So that went out to bid. We got one bid, and that was from Bellingham Toyota. And so they got the bid. The van is actually sitting right now at Bellingham Toyota. It's a brand new 2024 Toyota Sienna hybrid all-wheel drive minivan. The reason why we went all-wheel drive is for safety purposes during bad weather and everything else. And so people can get down and back in those weather situations. And it'll be, state-of-the-art software, safety, and everything else. So it's not an ADA van, so it doesn't have a wheelchair ramp or anything like that. The reason why we didn't go that way is because of the sustainability of the van itself. Purchasing a vehicle like that takes a lot more maintenance and there's a lot more difficulties. And when you're dealing with potentially picking somebody up at the ER and you have a wheelchair ramp out of a vehicle like that, If that ramp fails, then we're stuck in the ER and we're blocking traffic.
Yeah.
They're at somebody's home, then we're stuck at their home. And who's going to come up and try to fix that? If John's not here, we have no one because he would be the person that would come up and fix it. But, you know, our drivers would not be probably capable of being able to fix some type of mechanical problem with a lift or with a ramp or something like that. So we don't really have anybody that's technically 100% wheel bound. They do transfer from bed to wheelchair to toilet, those types of things. So we're assuming that at the hospital, the staff will help transfer them back into the van. There's plenty of room in the back to place a wheelchair for transport, everything like that. But it becomes another world if we go into an ADA van, and the cost would have been basically double as well. So we went with a straight van, very comfortable. It's going to be very nice for people to ride in back and forth and to come home from the hospital. So that's what that purchase is going to be. And that happened very quickly. I will be putting out interest for people to become part of our support team that will be established to oversee this program. And those will be drivers who will be going through our emergency services vehicle driving course, so an EVIP course. They have to set out cones. They have to make it through the cones. They can't run over babies. We call the cones babies. So just so you guys know, little children, that's kind of a common theme here, that we ask how many children did you hit in the parking lot type thing. So they have to go through that. They have to be covered by insurance. There'll be a volunteer here. They'll be paid a stipend. Right now, we're thinking around $75 to make the trip, to go down and pick somebody up and bring them back home. They'll be under insurance with the agency as well. So they'll become a volunteer here under that staffing. Anybody have any questions on that?
No.
No? Okay.
Sounds great.
So that's that cost that'll be coming out of capital reserves. The credit card, Cat's Consulting was for more black jackets, the black jackets that you see us wearing around with our emblems. The Warden Bodie was for a new stove upstairs, and we went commercial. I've replaced 3 stoves in the last, every 4 years I replace a stove upstairs. And it's because firefighters are not easy on anything. And we have some new cooks, and some new cooks definitely challenge our stoves upstairs. So we want more of a commercial stove. So hopefully we get a good 6 to 8 years out of this stove versus every 4 years having to replace a stove at this point. So I'm hoping we can get over 4 years, maybe 6 to 8 years out of this one. It's a very nice stove. We purchased a very nice hood, an exhaust hood to go with it, more of a commercial exhaust hood up there. And Chief Shields put that in, and that was, it can suck the skin off of a potato, basically, is how powerful this hood system is. You don't necessarily need to put that in the minutes, Linda. It'll be on video that I said suck the skin off of a potato. So, but so the kitchen is upgraded a little bit. So they have what they need. So Bergen is also for uniforms. That's our embroidery shop down in Bellingham. Life Assist is for medical supplies, medications, everything that we do with the ambulances and medication. Angar Corp. This came in late. This was the repair to our air handler upstairs for this room. It was last year. Yeah, it was last year. And they came up and they had to replace our motor and everything else in this air handler that we have upstairs to run the air conditioning and heat in this room. So surprising to most people, probably, this is the only room that has air conditioning inside this fire station. So we don't have vents or anything going upstairs to cool the upstairs or anything like that. This is it. So we had a class here last July, and they had an emergent call out because it froze up. So the entire unit like literally froze, like cold froze. So we had no air conditioning, and it was like 85 degrees outside. And we had a class of 40 people going on in here, and it was it was cooler outside than it was in here. And so they came up on an emergent call out. So they fixed it that day. They got us air conditioning for the second day, and everybody was really cold that day. And I said, it's too bad that everybody cold. I'm making up for yesterday. So everybody was a little cold. But then after that, they came out, they looked at it better, and they had to replace a whole bunch of things. So that cost came up late. So that wasn't planned. I was hoping to pay that in last year's budget, but that cost came up in this year's budget. Now, say again. Yeah, and that's prevailing wage. We didn't know that when they came out to do it. But anything that starts with Whatcom County, they charge prevailing wage for. And I've asked them to put that in any estimates that they have from this point forwards. I do not remember getting prevailing wage from Barron Heating or anybody else that would come up and assist us over the years. So something new that we have to start expecting to cover in cost.
Will Angor come up on a regular basis?
They do. Yep. Angar's coming up.
Okay.
I'll be putting out an RFP, which was not completed last year, but an RFP for mini units to go upstairs for heating and air conditioning in the kitchen and the bedrooms upstairs, and also the clinic over here. So they'll have the wall units, and it'll be keeping the clinic at much more of a consistent, comfortable temperature during the summer and during the winter for them, and also serving our internal customers, our firefighters and stuff upstairs. Because right now the heat is it's waxing, waning. It's really off. We have the wall heaters. So sometimes it's boiling hot up there. Sometimes it's freezing up there. They open up the windows, then I start heating up the outside, and I don't have enough money to heat the world. So it's just not an efficient system. So that's why I'm going with a ductless internal system. And that bid right now is around 40,000 to get the tonnage units that we need to handle the upstairs in the clinic, and having a 4-ton unit outside to handle all that. But it'll be much, yeah, and it'll be a lot nicer for any people that come into the clinic during any time of the year. Hopefully that system will keep it nice and warm or comfortable during the summer. And it's gotten pretty hot. Over the years, we've allowed them to set up fans on this back door and stuff and push some cool air, but it's time that we upgrade that. So especially, for the firefighters, it gets boiling hot up there during the summer too. So we'll do that. And then EMT and fire training, we have Kate Gray. She has started EMT training for the agency. So that's EMT school cost for one person. And that's a discount that we get through the school that we utilize. And they understand our geographical challenges and our budgetary constraints and everything else. And they're willing to give us a pretty hefty discount, but they had to increase the cost. Now it's $2,000 per person to send somebody to EMT training. So, and they gave us $1,800 because we didn't need the book. So we saved $200 on that. That explains the warrants and stuff. Does anybody have any questions on that?
They're very silent today. So we need to move to accept these.
Make a motion to accept the warrants as presented.
And the payroll.
And the payroll.
Oh, okay, and you second that? Okay. Then we're okay. We're finished. Chief, you can go right ahead.
Okay. All right. Patty, do you want to continue?
Yes,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Just that last little bit. I just wanted to double check that bottom number on my report, and that is correct. The total budget remaining as of February 29th, 2024 is 84.02%, and that's compared to 88.19% comparative to the previous year.
Anything else? No.
Okay, I'll go into my chief's report. Can everybody see that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so this is my chief's report for the month of March for actually February of 2024. Point of information, we were able to get our bids, AFG bids for the ambulance. I already discussed the Welcome Home van. We'll be advertising support staff for that. The AFG grants were able to be successfully placed, and that was for a new ambulance and for replacing our radios. This year on AFG, our radios came up to over $300,000. So just to explain the cost of what we do as in business is the portable radios that the firefighters carry and the radios that we have in all of our trucks. For a small agency like this, it came over $300,000 to replace those. And everybody asks why. Well, why are the radios? Can't you go to Costco and buy, a pair of walkie-talkies and utilize the walkie-talkies? Well, no. So these radios are specifically NFPA standards and everything else that have to be intrinsically safe. They have to be basically fire resistive. They have to handle so much heat because the heat that we deal with inside of a working structure can range over 500 degrees at any point. So the radios have to be able to handle that, and they have to be water, basically proof, resistant, very powerfully resistant to water because we use water. So everybody's amazed how it's $300,000 to replace all the portable and mobile radios that we have inside this agency. So you look at an agency like Seattle, you're looking at multi-millions to replace radios in that agency.
So how many radios does that include?
24. And this year, AFG does not cover the mobiles. So the ones that are in our vehicles. So if we get this grant, it'll only replace our handheld, the ones that firefighters carry, and we'll have to, out of reserve capacity, replace the radios that are in all of our vehicles. So they're no longer covering the cost. I don't know why that decision was made, but it was. And so we'll only get our portables replaced if we're fortunate enough to be given the grant. And then it'll probably be 50 to 75,000 to replace all the mobiles within our rigs to bring them up to date, because right now all of our radios are out of service life. So that's another reason. There'll be, APX 8000s, which would be Motorola's. So that's, yeah, we don't use King radios in suppression. Wildland uses those, but we don't use those in suppression.
So what's the difference?
They're different standards. Wildlands, outdoor, wildfire radios versus structural interior firefighting operations. Excuse me. The ambulance went in. Anybody want to guess what an ambulance costs?
500?
No, thank you. Thank you for saying that, but no. It's in for $290,000 to get a new ambulance. And that's the lower end ambulance without fancy stuff on it and things. So we'll see if we're fortunate enough to maybe get the ambulance grant or the radios. I would be happy with one or the other. I would be ecstatic if I got both, because that saves us around $600,000 roughly. That would be able to be placed towards another capital facility need and start ticking off our capital facility plan. So that would be great. Now here's an extended problem. Is if we get a new ambulance, we don't have room for it.
Yeah, right. Now we
So that means there's a potential that we move the red ambulance, which would become secondary. The white ambulance would become obsolete. The white ambulance is a 1991. If you've seen that driving around, it's a 1991, and it still has the hooks in the back to hang a leader with another person over a person. That is nowhere in the DOT safety guidelines now, outside maybe the military, but for civilian life, it is not there, and that meets no safety standards today. So that's why we're trying to replace it. The red ambulance would have to be moved out. The new ambulance would be parked in that stall. And if we're unable to get a pole building bidded out, that would go next to the clinic in our training area over here with the sand, then we would have to find some type of non-permanent shelter for the winter that our red ambulance would go into that would keep it warm because it would still be utilized for patient transports, secondary calls, those types of things, until we were able to get a pole building potentially built. But I'm hoping to get the RFP out for the pole building to see what it's going to range in cost. It's going to be probably, I would say, $300,000+ for a pole building. And it's going to be electricity, heat, no bathroom, no office. I don't plan on running water over there, but that may have to be added later. But just to get it up and running and a structure built to have our apparatus in by winter, it's going to be bare bones. But again, when we looked at it years ago, there was a bathroom, there was an office, there was some other stuff, but that was $500,000. And that was 15, 20 years ago. So we'll see. We'll see what the RFP comes back and see how many people bid on it. Okay, going a little long, sorry. We now have extrication tools on all of our engines. The purpose of that is to basically mirror every engine with a set of extrication tools that if we show up and we have a wreck, we need extrication, that any fire truck that shows up outside the ambulances will have the ability to get immediately started on extrication and not have to come back to the fire station and pick up another rig or wait for somebody to come here and pick up another rig to take it to the scene. That we can start immediate extrication regardless of the apparatus that is pulling up. So that is complete. I have nothing to report on any of the apparatus. We still have 47 members, 32 Canadian, 12 Point Roberts, 3 county. We have 3 paramedics on staff, which I'm included in that, 9 EMTs, which of 5 are advanced EMTs. We have 1 RN, 1 ambassador, and of that 47 members, 36 are certified firefighters. Volunteer hours for the month of February, 2,512. Volunteer payroll, 16,869. Combined chief hours, obviously I worked 160 even because I've been off. I plan on coming back full duty on the 26th of this month, back into rotation. And then Chief Shields worked 101.5, combined hours 261.5. We had 47 calls in the month of February. We had 9 EMS calls. We transported 3 patients ourselves to the hospital. Airlift Northwest took 2, and 4 patients decided not to go to the hospital. EMS Cares, our paramedic outreach program, we had 10 visits in the month of February, and we had 7 public service calls. We had 21 fire classifications. We had 4 permitted burns. We had 14 false alarms. We had 1 power line down. We had 1 animal rescue. That was the dog. You want to talk about that, John? No. Yeah, the dog got stuck on a ledge on the cliffs at Lily Point. And John and another member, they had to come up from the bottom and they were able to get up to the dog and get it down safely. We had 1 oil spill, just to finish that. We do have the capability of high angle and low angle rescue. I'm trained as a CMAC Tech 3. John is also trained to rappel. So if we need to hook onto a tree and rappel off the cliff, we do have that capability within our skill sets. It may be a little rough, but we do have that skill set. We also have the ability to call in CBPs, border patrols, what is it? SRT, special rescue team, and they'll come up here, and if we have any type of really challenging high angle rescue situation off of one of the cliffs, they would come up and support us in that endeavor. So that completes my chief's report for the month of March for February 2024.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Okay.
What was the name of the dog?
Marcus. So Marcus was the name of the dog that we saved off the cliff at Lily Point.
Maybe we won't go there again.
He did. I didn't.
Unfinished business? Do we have?
I don't think we have any unfinished business.
No. Okay. No business.
Okay, new business. So I've been approached by Shauna Sylvester and Stephen Falk. They've been working diligently. Both, I believe, have put in a significant amount of time, especially Shauna, in regards to trying to have a feasibility study on solar energy here, definitely for the infrastructure of Point Roberts, such as the fire station, the hospital, the clinic next door, the church, and other vital infrastructure that would be needed in a disaster. This would also be potentially extended to the community as a whole to try to see what type of level of renewable energy we could establish here for Point Roberts. So I've been approached by Shauna. I was a little out of it with communication for a little while just because of my situation of recovering from my prostate cancer surgery, and was able to reconnect with Shauna about this. I've expressed the emails to our legal counsel, Brian Sir, to get his take on monies that may be involved in such an endeavor and how the fire district would be able to support that financially, and what would have to be in place to do that if we would be allowed. So, I do support renewable energy. Obviously, I love this community, and I know that's a way of the future is to have some type of solar backup, some type of off-grid backup per se. And we do lose electricity here once, twice, three times a year during our windstorms, et cetera. But we have a large generator here. So that generator normally runs, we can run it up to 48 hours or longer. And if we're able to get fuel up here, then we would be able to continue doing that on generator. But let's say the generator was taken out and we had no other means, and the grid was heavily impacted from a windstorm or from an earthquake. How would we continue running the necessities of this agency? So I'm going to turn the floor over to Shauna Sylvester and Stephen Falk and let them dive into it a little bit more for you. And then if you want to, after that, I'll ask you for direction. If you would like to have me oversee this with cooperation with the Parks District and anyone else, then you can give me that permission or not. Okay, so Shauna Sylvester and Stephen Falk. Nope, you guys are can you guys split? Can you guys scoot? Can you guys go that way? You go that way just a little bit, and then Commissioner.
Our interest and desire to be meeting with you today is to really talk through the fire district being a part of the broader feasibility study for community solar and backup. This is an initiative that has come about because we've just heard the announcement in the last few weeks that the Washington State Commerce Department has opened up their decarbonization, community decarbonization grants. We are well situated to apply for that grant. And one of the folks that have been working with us in helping us understand community solar and backup is from Cascadia Renewables and Marcus Verda. And they are one of only 2 approved contractors to work with Commerce. So our work with them has already led to a draft scope of work on what it would cost to do the feasibility study here in Point Roberts. Ideally, the feasibility study is only going to be on our public buildings at the beginning. This is the Parks District, and I want to thank the Parks District, has agreed to be the lead applicant. They actually already were an applicant for a single building technical assistance grant that they were going to get. And to the credit of the Parks District, we asked them as Resilient Point Roberts to look broader and to put forward an application for all of our public buildings so that we could look at reducing our overall energy costs, decarbonizing our energy supply, and supporting the emergency planning and resilience of the community. I talked to Chief Carlton in December. He said, please ensure that you also look at the church in addition to the other public buildings, because that's part of our emergency shelter plans. We did approach the church. So now I'm happy to say as of last night, the water district is in as well. Parks District, the church, so that leaves us our community center, our library, and if the fire district says yes, that's the fire district, our health unit, the water district. And then we have extensive community buying and support. We've got letters of support from most of our volunteer and elected committees. The Parks District is provided, so I should say there is no match requirement for this grant. It's for about $130,000 to $150,000. There is no requirement. However, if they have two applicants that are of equal weight in their ranking, they will take the applicant that has demonstrated community financial investment. So the Parks Board has already committed $5,000, but it has to be matched by other community. We also have another community donation that's come in for $2,000. So we're at $7,000. The application has a very tight turnaround time. It's a 6-week opening from beginning to end, and it closes at noon on April 5th. It comes right after Easter. So our goal is to get everything done and in by this last week of March. We've asked all the letters of support to be in by March 22nd. So this is a request, and Chief Carlton has this, that the fire district come on board as a partner and say yes to having the building included in the feasibility study, that we receive a letter of support for the application from the fire district, and if possible, that there's a contribution to the match. So that's our request. Any questions?
Okay, questions?
Starting out, what are the technical rules involved? And what is the capability of what's going to be built in wattage or anything like that?
So the second question we can't answer until the feasibility study is done. The first question is Cascadia Renewables, which is in all of the research that we've done, is considered #1 in this space. We've got one of the best and most reputable, and the head was the head for 4 years of the Washington State Renewable Energy Association. They will come in and they will assess your electrical panel. They'll assess whether or not the roof can sustain, what size needs to be there, how it's going to displace existing carbon-based energy sources. It's going to look at all of that. It's going to look at the best locations as well within Point Roberts for community energy program, if they're project. I can already tell you they're looking at the reservoir as the best possible site. They're going to tell us, they will come back to us with a whole sort of design strategy and ideas of where we get funding for the installation of that. So that's a really important part of what they bring. They don't just bring the technical capacity, they bring the funding ideas. The other thing they're doing, which is unlike any other proposal, is they bought into the Point Roberts way of doing things. We were really clear, this is a community engaged resident, that we need to own this process. And they fully support that. They're going to bring their whole team over, and then over a 3-day period, they're going to spend time taking a technical core of volunteers through their assessment process so that they're trained up to do assessments on residential. And they're going to also teach them how to do the online software component of those assessments. So they're embedding a workforce development side of this. They're also going to support us in our decision. So they're going to bring all of us together and say, this is what we've learned here, and be available to answer all of our questions and answer the questions specifically that each of the districts might have, and really go through it so that it's an engaged decision-making process that we own. And then they're going to help us to identify those key funding opportunities. And we know that the next 2 years, or I know because of the work I do in my regular life, the next 2 years is our opening. Through the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, there's a lot of money right now, but it's not going to be open forever. And so there's ability for us to stack funding to actually get the full installation. There will be a method, but there also want to identify foundations and things that can help us. I think what's important about this is that it's a community-driven process that is community, and we're doing it It's not one building over another trying to get something. It's us working together in tandem and building up our capacity locally. I guess the other thing I want to say, because we've always had this issue, is who's going to maintain the service, what we do. That's a big part of what they're going to be doing. They're not going to ever recommend anyone that's not going to also service Point Roberts. So that's also part of it.
That's a biggie.
It is a biggie, but there are two now. What's really important is because of the way we've been working through this, we've been letting contractors know they're not going to stand a chance with an RFP if they don't have those things in play. And when we get to the scale that we hope to get on the residential, which is different, it becomes worth their while.
Oh, sure.
And in this case, they were excited about coming. It wasn't an issue with them not. Like Cascade is, they said, no, we've already booked. We know this one is going to come through. We're booking there, baby. We're bringing the whole team. Yes.
If someone wants to do any more research,
Mhm.
are there any available sites for the done the type of thing that you said?
Yes. Mhm.
that
Yeah.
available to
We can
students?
give you a list of all of the successful bids from last year. So, that was one of the things we wanted to know how we would compare. If we came in and requested 140, 150, how do we compare to others? And so they gave us a list of all those that had been approved already, and I can get that to you. Do that right away. I should also say, and Stephen's been a part of this, we engaged with Congress really early on and got to know them. So that the vulnerabilities, this is a program set aside for vulnerable communities. And we don't qualify in normal criteria for vulnerable communities. Because they're usually underserved. We don't, but we make sure. we do. Don't want to say a little bit about that. Made sure that we were in attendance at all the consultations, and we just kept saying, yes, but Point Roberts isn't an island community, it's harder, it's difficult, more vulnerable, and we're vulnerable for this, and we're vulnerable for that. And every letter of support that we've received profiles a different vulnerability. So, whether it's the circle of care or profiling, PCR, the taxpayers is profiling. We're each profiling a different thing. So the story is one of, this is the most vulnerable community on the list, and you better support us. And that is, according to Cascadia Renewables Inside Track, they said Point Roberts is really high on the list.
It should be.
Yeah, that should have.
Can I get the name of the contractor again?
Yes, Cascadia Renewables, and Chief Carlton's got the draft scope of work. And that was, the draft scope of work that you have will be revised to include the water district, now that we have that there.
So, would you like to say?
No, I just thought that had a question. Stephen, private citizen point. They want to buy in the solar stuff for properties. We can accomplish that sometime if we finance home installation.
And that's the work we've been doing, Pat. We've done 4 educational sessions. That's the residential. It's different than the other. But one of the things that we tie to this group, Cascade, is that if you're coming in, help build our capacity to do the residential as well. So that's about the only thing here, because this money is for our public buildings.
Right.
But the whole Point Roberts, Resilient Point Roberts Going Solo group that's hosted 4 sessions is going strong. It's now got 101 residents from Point Roberts that are a part of it. There's a group of, there's a technology and assessment group of volunteers that are kind of scaling up their skills so that they can do the assessments on all of the residentials that have come up. And to do that for free, that's what we're trying to get to, is not for any residents have to pay for the actual assessments. So we're trying to get there. And then once we have a critical mass of residents, then we're going to put forward our RFP. It's a separate process, but connected. It was that group, the Resilient Point Roberts, that made the decision at the second meeting, and Virginia was there, that we weren't just gonna focus on residences, we really wanted to focus on two other aspects. Getting solar backup on our community buildings, and then exploring the feasibility as well of community energy, so that people who couldn't get residential might be able to buy shares in something that was local. That's a bit further off.
Those meetings were really good because they introduced people in the community what it was all about. So when you go to the next step with commercial, then they understand it better. So I think that was really very smart.
I did it because I didn't understand.
Okay, Stephen, do you want to have?
No, I was just gonna go back to the basic point. This is a multi-step process. And so the thing that comes out of this, the grant that we're seeking, if we cover the various public buildings, community center, libraries, building, water, church, is to get them assessed for suitability for solar. And then, as Sean already said, it ends up being a completely separate and big effort to then file for grant applications and things to provide funding for actual installation of real hardware, which would be solar panels and hopefully battery backup units that would come as a whole separate stage. This one is just limited to the feasibility study, and is a fairly good infusion of capital. It ends up being $40,000, but as Sean said, we would be better off in our application with the goal of getting it approved and getting the project going, to have funding from community groups that are involved. So that's why the park district is willing to put forward 5,000. Hope that we get up to 15 total, but I'm not sure how we're going to end up, and we have an additional 2. So we can get something like 5 or something like that to add to that. It would give us a good match to put in our application that says, if you give us this grant, we're prepared to put this much in as a community. So we really have a little bit of skin in the game, not too much, because they're putting that, most of the money is coming from grant, but it would be a good way to get things going.
Steve, is this photovoltaic or as wind power as well?
No, this is only focused on solar. Funny that you mentioned, because the first time that I talked to Sean about, when she talked to me, or tried to talk to me about solar, I said, what about wind? This is all wind solar. I do like the idea, that that's not part of it, not the discussion right now is about. We have plenty of it here.
I should also say, we couldn't get the next stage of funding if we didn't do this. It's,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
but my confidence here is in the quality of the contractor that would be serving this. And I checked them out in various places.
Good.
And in case it's a concern, we are working on that lead issue to figure out what's.
Just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Getting involved in both the organization.
Any other questions?
Oh, we'd love to have you. They're completely wide open. And we'd love to have you. Everybody is welcome. There's nothing.
The next one yet?
I just, I sent a letter out to everybody in the list yesterday, 2 days ago, and said, it was supposed to be in March, but it is taking every night of work to get this application done. And, in the way we want to do it, which is to have full community buy-in. So, that's where our efforts are going right now. And then in April, we'll have the next meeting. And it'll have an educational quality, because big reports just come out about what's happening to the water supply in Washington. You probably know this, that they've already, a huge report has come out about the feedback loops on climate are already creating drought conditions. Yesterday, British Columbia announced that they're at the lowest snowpack in 50 years, and there are already 100 fires burning under the ground. What do they call them, zombie fires now? So they are anticipating the worst period of both drought and fires in history of British Columbia.
In the wine country.
Projecting. I think it's throughout. I come from the community, so it's bad. So it's gonna have an impact on hydropower, our electricity rate, or eventually electricity rates. It's gonna have impact on what's available to us, both as energy sources. So we've got to start, I mean, this is a long-term goal, but we've got to start looking at how we create resilience in our community, without having to be too dependent. And so that the water is being used for what it needs to be used for. One of the five. My neighbor.
Okay, so I would ask for your direction on where you want to go. I'm happy to support the feasibility study, as stated, and write a letter in support of that. And see if we are awarded that process. There are further, if we do, if we're able to get that support and we go into another stage, obviously there's other things that need to be discussed on. I can call Brian and ask him what level of funding we can support with, if you want to match the 5,000, or if we're able to support with 10,000, 20. Obviously, we have to beat the Parks District. That's a joke. Obviously, we have to beat the Parks District. I know that. I know that. That was a joke between Stephen and myself. Oh, we gotta up it. We gotta up it. But I'd like to know if we have a threshold, because WAC's RCW is governing Parks District, Water District, compared to the fire service and emergency services may be different in our abilities to do such. So I want to make sure that we're completely on keel with the rules and regulations in Washington. And if we can, what level can we be at, or up to what level we can maybe match or fund above. So
How long will it?
I can call Brian tomorrow morning. I'll call him tomorrow morning, and I already sent him 2 emails today regarding this too. So just to have him go through some stuff that was sent over by Shauna. But I can at least get the letter provided in support, so they have that in record. And then I can let her know what our funding would be in matching or in addition to. So I guess, would you, if we're allowed to match with 10,000, where would that come from? Would it come out of capital reserves? Where does that legally have to come from, right? And it's just not putting money out there, right? It's like, well, we have to be responsible for that. So who's going to manage it? Are there going to be multiple managers? MOUs, memorandum of understandings, need to be put in place because it's public funds. So this is something that has to be tracked to the penny. And how do emergency services funds? I know fire stations are being built with solar. They're being built with a solar backup situation. They're beautiful fire stations. One of the biggest things I would have would be sustainability. The people who would be in charge of coming up and repairing the system, upgrading the system in the future, in 10 years, upgrading the technology, what would that cost? I mean, there's ongoing things that would have to be discussed and financed out to see, okay, where are we going to get the money and how much cost is it? Because obviously we have a capital facilities plan that we need to start executing. The Parks District has that as well, and other districts. So, but I'm happy to support knowing if we can even go further, and that's the feasibility study.
So can we entertain a motion that we will proceed to determine our involvement?
You can have a motion to allow me to write the letter of supporting the feasibility study.
Okay.
And then the motion can include that I would be the lead on the project, keep the commissioners informed on where the project is going, either through informational emails or at regular meetings that we have, in order to let you know if we've received the feasibility study funds to go forth. And if so, after that, where are we planning on going from there? So.
You know what he just said?
Motion to direct chief to write the letter of support, yes, act as liaison with the Whatcom committee.
So it's the Resilient Point Roberts going solo that's the driving, but the applicant is.
Oh, the park district, the park. Okay, then, yeah.
And what would happen now, since we're only putting in the deadline, the tight deadline is for the application, which is coming up.
Yeah.
But if there's a if you guys do decide to make a commitment to some amount of money, you know, obviously we don't have to have, there doesn't have to be any money changing hands for quite a while, but it'll only be after we get to the. Then we'll need to have funds that we can put into the file that goes to the, I think it's added to the grant money to be paid to the contract to the consultant to provide services.
I guess another motion that I would like to see is up to what level of funds, if allowable by law, would we be able to, would you be comfortable with utilizing to support this effort if we get past the feasibility study? And is that going to be 10,000? Is that going to be 20,000? 5,001? Parks District, just kidding. Come on, this is a hard crowd. This is a tough crowd. Put in some cash. Put in some cash. This is a tough crowd today. This is a tough crowd. So, but and then if you vote that we would, support at $20,000, are we allowed to do that by law? Right? And would that be a comfortable level, or 10,000? Would that be a comfortable level?
Find that out first.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, if we're able to do that, let's say we can do 50, but the commissioners have only approved me 20, right? Or 10 at this meeting. Otherwise, next month's meeting is going to be too late to have that matching. So that's what I'm saying. Give me a level that you would allow me to go to.
Okay, well,
And
there's a motion on the table.
Yeah.
So I need to, who's making the motion? The motion is to direct the chief to write a letter of support and act as a liaison with the park district to pursue a grant for a feasibility study to install solar power on public buildings in Point Robert.
Correct.
Solar and.
Solar and
back.
and
Norman, do you want to make that motion? Okay, so Norman makes the motion.
and
I'll second it.
and Virginia second, okay, and then all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, and then your second motion, I want to hear how you want to word that.
So I would like to have guidance from the commission on a motion of the commission allows me to go to a level of $20,000, $10,000, $5,001, whatever be the case, in funds that are, what's the wording? Not
Matching funds.
matching, that would be matching or matching an additional funds to support a project being developed here in Point Roberts if we get to that point.
Let me clarify that.
Sure.
Because you might be thinking, I can't tell if you're talking about the next phase, of this. The grant, the matching fund would be for this particular grant, the one that, on the feasibility study. But we aren't anywhere.
So if the feasibility study costs 200,000, let's say, just a number, that the community has $40,000 to put forth, so the grant would be 160. Is that correct?
No, so the idea is we will submit a grant. This is my hope. We are going to submit a grant for 150. In that 150 is inclusive of 12,000 that has come from the community.
To date.
Of which you would be coming in with 5,000 and one. I'm not asking 5,000.
I understand that.
But, so we are not asking for more than 5,000 at this stage,
I understand that.
unless you want.
I understand that. The community has been very gracious to us and to the Parks District as well. And I think, putting funds forth to what level you consider. 10 grand may not be doable by law, right? We just don't know that yet. But if you give me permission to go to that level, then I can at least have those and say that the fire district is in support of $10,000 going towards this, or 20,000, or whatever you guys decide. So being mindful that we do have things that we have to do as emergency services.
Right.
$10,000 would buy me 2 pairs of outfitting a firefighter, but we are blessed with the levy lid lift and the graces of our community that has allowed us to have the funds available to us that we've never seen before in our history. So I need some type of guidance from the commission once I write this letter, and then finding information out from Brian.
What are your thoughts? What's workable?
Well, if you're talking about the minimum 5,000, that's what we should start. See what the visibility, because this is just the beginning.
That's right.
So,
Shauna, am I correct? The more money we put forth, the better for us
I was just that-
in visibility, in optics.
Yes. I mean, in terms of if they have equal weight, they're gonna make that decision based on community.
Right. So
But I don't think it's, I don't think it's.
We don't, we don't have to go overkill because we cry for very strongly
Yeah.
to them at the front end of this. And we convinced them to go, they were gonna put a 10 to 30% match on all nonprofit grants, and we convinced them to go to zero.
to convince, I didn't hear that.
Commerce to go to zero, because there were communities for which this would be just too far. And so they agreed to go to zero, but then put in this provision that they have two equal weighted proposals. They will take the one that can be invested. Okay, so there could be, I could see a case to say, okay, the community's raised 7,000, the district comes in and matches 7, 5, 7, but don't, I'm gonna be honest, you don't need to go beyond that at this stage. I don't think you do, and watch me fight my words later, but I hope that we don't have to. Like, I think that would be.
You think 12,000 total would be?
12, 14, I do think that should be,
I'll
You'll perhaps better than I do, so.
Yeah, I'll put it out there. I'll say 10,000. You would give me permission to go to a $10,000 matching.
Okay.
And if that's allowable by law, at least we'll have $10,000 on the table for you and for this process, and see where it goes. I think $10,000 is very doable to the district.
And if we don't need it, then you'll give whatever it is.
So-
Below 10,000.
Yeah, if we're not allowed to give 10, if we're allowed to give 7,500 or 5,000 by WAC or RCW controlling this type of thing.
I understand.
But I'll have to figure that out through legal. And again, there's differences between the different districts here that are being at play. But I do believe the fire district, being the emergency services of this community, is a big player in this process. And realizing that the infrastructure that we're wanting to be supplied by solar is that infrastructure that will be disaster fallouts and everything else within the community, if necessary, and to have that sustainability would be very important. So it's really, we're a big player along with Parks District and stuff, but so I would like to ask for permission to go up to 10,000 if allowed by law. And at least we'll be able to express that in funds for this project. But I'll let you know if I can't go that high, or if I'm not allowed to invest any by legal. So if you're comfortable with that amount, then I would need a motion to be able to act to that.
I would, yeah. We'll go with the motion for 10,000.
Okay.
Based on whatever is recommended by our
Legal counsel. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. And I will let you, hopefully I'll be able to talk to Brian first thing in the morning, and I will let you know if that's approved by legal. And that'll be just an informational email. No decisions being made, obviously, because the decision's made today. So it's whether we can reach that 10,000 or I'll be sending out an email saying we are only able to go to 5,001. So, but I'll let you know.
Okay, so do you? Okay, then you do, okay, it's passed.
Okay.
You've got all.
Yeah, Brenda made the motion, Pat seconded it, and Pat passed 3-0.
We have a very good understanding here.
Thank you very much. But also thank you, I really appreciate the understanding of what the possibility is here and what it creates for our community. So to me, not having to explain any of that and that you know it intimately is really helpful.
So thank you for being here and taking your time and all the time that you both have spent, Shauna, for you especially, and the Parks District, you know, starting the process in the so appreciate that, and hopefully we have some positive return.
So, I'm getting your email, Virginia. I know I can't get it from Virginia, but I'm gonna get it.
We'll give that to you. After, we'll give that to you.
Yeah, anyway, thanks so much.
Okay, back to the regular floor. Are you okay?
It's. Oh, don't fall down. That's good. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. So does that finish all of the new business? Is there any other new business?
I don't think so. I covered everything. The new van, it's already at Toyota. It'll be going over to get front clear protection put on it. And then it'll be going out for deckling. So to outfit it with fire district 5 on the back of it and some type of pretty cursive stating message on it for the community. And it won't have radios in it. It won't have emergency lights or anything like that. It'll have a phone. I just upgraded our fire phone and our medical phone. And I just purchased a new Verizon phone for the van for them to utilize during business.
Okay.
So that vehicle will have its own cell phone assigned to it for the drivers and support staff to utilize. So they don't have to do that on their own devices.
Good.
So that's that.
Okay, so the last thing is
John, do you have anything? No?
Patty. And,
Patty, do you have anything?
anything else?
Linda?
No.
Okay.
Want to move?
Thank you.
Bill, do you have something? Zidell?
There.
Bill Zidell?
Yes, sir. Just a quick question for Chief. The Parks and Rec Department is doing some work, field work and stuff like that on a lot of cleanup. And what we were looking for is, I don't have a specific address that we would use, but for instance, we're going to be up in Bakerfield cleaning up and a couple other places. There's occasion we may want to burn something. What kind of permit can I get for the Parks and Rec Department that if we're out, like say for instance, doing work and it's safe to burn, what kind of permit do I need from you?
Bill, I do not trust you burning anything. So I'm not, that's a joke.
It's okay. It's okay.
No, we would assist you with that. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a good reminder for me, which I forgot. We have developed a new burn permit that has all 3 permits on one form. And again, we're not charging for any type of burns,
Right.
because of the levy. So one permit will have everything on it and all the directions and everything else. So you can pick the burn that you're going to do. Obviously, if you do land clearing, there's definitely different things that have to be requirements that have to be put in place. But if you do a residential burn, then that's pretty simple. And that could be done up at the Parks District.
All right, because we'll be working up in Bakerfield, cleaning up Scotch Broom and all that other stuff around the skate park and everything, making it more easy for access and egress in and out of the parking lot and stuff. And we just may, decide to just burn something. So I want to make sure we were clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
One other question. I know you're not going to, so I had one other question. I just want to make sure that you don't have a radio truck and anything like that. I got it. But at the end of the day, do you have a cup holder? Because if I'm driving, I'm going to need a place to put coffee. Okay.
I think this van probably comes with a cup holder.
Okay, that's all, you know, that's everything else is eyewash. You know what I'm saying? It's all eyewash. I want a cup holder, I'm good. I'll take the class. I won't run over any babies in the parking lot.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. Okay?
Okay, sounds good. So it was a tough crowd today. You guys were a pretty tough crowd. So I think that's it, Commissioner.
Thank you. Adjourn, make a motion, we adjourn at second, 5:05 p.m. Thank you.